بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى أهله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأتقياء أما بعد. Before the month of Ramadan, 4-5 months earlier, we began the sessions with the discussion of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in somewhat detail we discussed the years beginning from the era or the period before the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and week by week progressing through the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And before the month of Ramadan, we halted with the Battle of Khandaq. And if you recall, the Battle of Khandaq was in which year? The 5th year Hijri. The 5th year after migration was the year in which the Battle of Khandaq took place. Now today, inshallah, I wish to once again carry on with our series and move forward to the 6th year of Hijrah. So after the Battle of Khandaq took place, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he married Hazrat Zainab radiallahu anha. In this very same year, the rulings of hijab were also revealed. In the 6th year of Hijrah, I just want to indicate in today's session towards one incident. That's it, inshallah. Then we're done. In the 6th year Hijri, there were many small saraya that took place. I defined the difference between a sariya and a ghazwa at the beginning of the Madani life, if you recall. So there were many saraya that took place. Sariya is a battle in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not take part in. And a ghazwa is a battle in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took part in. So there are many saraya that took place. Saraya is the plural of sariya. And in the 6th year of Hijri, there were many, quite a few of them. However, in Dhul Qa'dah of the 6th year Hijri, a very unique incident took place. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was one night sleeping. And the 6th year Hijri, okay, now you have to bear this in mind now. How old is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at this age? 56. He's 59, 58, 59 at this point. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away in the 10th year Hijri and he was 63 when he passed away. So if you minus 4 from 63, roughly 59, 58 in this area here. So it was towards the end of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The whole risala, everything that took place during the life, all the battles that took place. There were so many battles that took place. And in every battle, there was always a new lesson to the Muslims. Every year that came to the life of the Muslims, there was always a new lesson. So when they migrated, that was a new, first when Islam came, in order for them to accept and bear the sacrifices, that was a lesson from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the time of Hijrah came and the difficulties of the migration, that was another lesson from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then establishing a Muslim community in Medina Munawwara, that was another lesson from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every year, a new lesson was taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Muslim community. And each lesson seemed to outweigh the previous lesson. There was always something new to it. The Battle of Badr came. And then victory came to the Muslims. That was a new lesson from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the following year, the Battle of Uhud took place. And a new lesson was taught to the Muslims where they saw the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam covered in blood. And they learned what the outcome would be if they ever disobeyed Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even to the lightest degree. And then the Battle of Khandaq came where the entire world more or less came against the Muslims. And how the Muslims were so parishan and they were so worried. Yet they stood steadfast and they were firm. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted them His nusrah and they were victorious. So likewise, every year there was a new lesson that was taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi ta'ala majma'in. Now in the 6th year of Hijrah, this lesson of theirs went to another level altogether. And I also discussed in the previous, the hadith of Ifk took place where the incident where Aisha radiallahu anha was accused. Many incidents took place. In the 6th year Hijrah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is sleeping and he sees a dream. And in his dream, he sees that he is in Makkah Mukarramah and he's doing tawaf of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with this, he wakes up. And he sees in his dream that some of the Sahaba that were with him, they are shaving their heads and the other are trimming their hair. Because when a person does Hajj Umrah, in order to get out of the haram, you have to either shave your head or trim a portion of your hair. How much you have to trim? You have to trim at least the amount of the top part of the finger, if you look at your finger, the inner part, there's 3 portions to it. The top part of the finger, that much must be at least cut. And if a person doesn't even have that much hair, then he must shave his head. So now the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is what we refer to as qasr and halaq. So Rasulullah in his dream, he sees that some Sahaba are doing halaq and some Sahaba are doing qasr. Now you have to understand that Rasulullah when he was born, where was he born? In Makkah. And he had throughout his life seen the azmat and see the greatness of the Kaaba. And then the day came where Rasulullah had to leave Makkah Mukarramah. And when he was leaving Makkah Mukarramah, Rasulullah he addressed Makkah by saying that if I wasn't pushed out by my people, I would have never left you. Rasulullah he has such a love for Makkah that when he arrives in Medina Nawara, he has to now face which way? Baytul Maqdis for Salah. And what does he do? He desires so deeply in his heart that only if I can face Makkah Mukarramah again. So the attachment of Makkah Mukarramah was great because again, it was the house built by his forefathers, and not only because it was built by his forefathers, the house belonged to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there. Inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nas. The first house built for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was in Makkah Mukarramah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he sees his dream, it's kind of as if yaad taza ho gayi. Now we say in Urdu, right? That, the old memories came back fresh again. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his love that he had, the attachment he had for Makkah Mukarramah, it once again came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And a Nabi, his dream is also a wahi, it's a form of a revelation. So now it's kind of as if, some young person, when I was young, I remember, I used to love playing Game Boy. And I was in love with Game Boy. But my father never bought me one. He would say, you'll waste your time if you buy a Game Boy. So he never bought me a Game Boy. So I had to go to my friend's house to play Zelda on his Game Boy. So what happened was that sometimes I'd go to sleep, and in my sleep I'd see that I walked into a room and there was a treasure box of Game Boys. And there was a treasure box of games, and I can play all I wanted to. So I'd wake up in the morning, when I'd wake up, I'd be so mad. Oh my God, that was a dream, only if that was true. So here Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sees his dream, and in his dream he sees the Kaaba. What he's been striving for, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so deeply in love with. And when he sees the Kaaba, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sees himself doing tawaf, old memories come back, that there was a day that we used to also smell the fragrance of the Kaaba. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he wakes up, he tells the Sahaba, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after Fajr Salah had a habit of relating his dream. If he saw a dream, Rasulullah after Fajr Salah, he would turn around and tell the Sahaba that last night I saw this dream. And then he would ask the Sahaba, did anyone see a good dream tonight? So then the Sahaba would say, oh, I saw a dream. He said, he would interpret the dream. And then another Sahaba would say, I saw a dream. Rasulullah would interpret the dream. And then sometimes Rasulullah would tell the Sahaba, you interpret the dream. And the Sahaba would take a try. They try to interpret the dreams. But then Rasulullah said, you made a mistake here. Because interpreting dreams isn't easy. Only some are gifted with it. Not everyone is, our Shaykh, the principal of the Al-Amin, he was, subhanAllah, gifted with the skill of interpretation to another level. To another level altogether. So beautiful were his interpretations that never have I ever come across an incident where his interpretation ever came wrong. SubhanAllah. It's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? It's a gift from Allah. Not every person can learn. It's not a kasabi thing. It's more of a wahabi thing. Something that's gifted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His mother passed away recently this year, and very old. She passed away in South Africa. So Mana Zakaria, who's one of the scholars in Canada, he saw a dream. He saw a dream that Sheikh Zakaria, that Mana Yusuf Mutala Sahab, our Sheikh, his mother was going into the washroom. She was actually being pushed into the toilet. So he calls Mana Yusuf Mutala Sahab, he tells Mana Yusuf Mutala Sahab that I saw a dream after your mother passed away. And the dream was that your mother was being pushed into the toilet. Now apparently that dream, it doesn't sound like, the interpretation doesn't sound so good, that she was being pushed into a filthy place. So Mani Sumtala said when he heard the dream, he smiled and he said, Alhamdulillah. That, all praise to Allah. So he said, what happened? How could you say Alhamdulillah when someone sees your mother being pushed in the toilet in a dream? So he replies back by saying that he said that, what do we call a toilet in English? It was restroom. Because that's where a person goes to rest. Because a person goes there to relieve himself from all the tension that he had throughout his life, throughout his day. So she had a very tough life. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending her to a restroom. Go and enjoy yourself. Go and rest in paradise. So some people, they have the gift of interpretation. SubhanAllah, it's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he told the Sahaba that I saw this dream. That we're going to Makkah and we're doing our Umrah. Who's ready? It's kind of like a tashkil. Kaun tayar hai? Haath uthao. Who's ready for this? So the Sahaba, when they heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was going, one day our teachers will sometimes say that, there's a speech in Manchester, kaun saath mein chalega? There's a speech like half an hour away from him, who wants to come along? So all the students say, we want to come. So likewise, Rasulullah is saying that I'm ready for Umrah now, who's ready to come? So 1,500 Sahaba said we're ready to go. How many?
1,500.
1,500 Sahaba. That's a really big group there. So a whole majma', so imagine the whole Ijtima of Chicago says we're going for Hajj together, one big group. So Rasulullah he took the 1500 Muhajirin and Ansar along with him. And they traveled on the 1st of Dhul Qa'dah, on the 6th year of Hijri, towards Makkah Mukarramah. And once again, after they had all left, they were returning back to Makkah Mukarramah. They went to Dhul Hulayfa, which is not too far outside Medina Munawwara, and they tied their ihram there. They prepared for Umrah, and they set off from there. Rasulullah ﷺ realized that the people of Makkah Mukarramah, if they were to know that Rasulullah ﷺ is coming with 1500 people, they would think that first of all, this is a battle. Because the Sahaba, when they fought against the Kuffar, their numbers were usually not more than 1,000 anyway. In Battle of Badr, how many were there? 313. In the Battle of Uhud, there were 1,000 more or less. So here there's 1,500 coming. So now, and at the same time, the Arabs, whenever they traveled, even if they had no intention of war, they always carried some weapons with them. The reason being because they were traveling through the deserts and they could be attacked. That's why a person would always carry a weapon with them as a form of defense. You know, Ibn Battuta, he was a famous traveler, Sayyah. One of the first journeys he took, he actually lived in Morocco, and he was a lawyer. So one of the first journeys he took in his life was to Makkah. He saw a dream in which he was going to Makkah Mukarramah. So he said, I want to go do Hajj. So one of his first journeys he took in his life was he began to travel towards Hajj. He did without his family, I'm going. They told him there's a group that goes from here. He said, I don't want to go with any group, I want to go alone. And he traveled alone. So this is one of the first trips he took in his life. And what happened is he didn't realize the desert life. As soon as he got in the desert, he traveled a little, someone came and beat him up. 3-4 guys came, beat him up, and they made him bleed, and they took all of his stuff and left him there. And then what happened was that one of the leader of the group who beat him up, he came back and said, I realized that you're going for Hajj. Because he found the ihram there in the back. He took the ihram with him. So he said, I saw your ihram there, and I realized you're going for Hajj, that's why. He goes, I feel bad beating up a Haji. He goes, there, take something back. So then he told Ibn Battuta that if you hire me, I'll be your guide I'll be your bodyguard until we reach Makkah Mukarramah. So now here the Sahaba, when they were traveling, they also had a few weapons, not much, but they had a few weapons with them in case there's something came up. There were 1,500 of them that were traveling. Rasulullah ﷺ, he sent one Sahabi again ahead and said, go keep an eye out ahead and see how the people of Makkah Mukarramah are retaliating towards our trip. Because it was like CNN news. One person saw it and the news would reach Makkah Mukarramah that 1,500 people are coming right towards you. So now what happened was the people of Makkah Mukarramah, when that Sahabi, when he came back, the Sahaba and Rasulullah ﷺ were quite ahead now, they were into their trip. That person came and told Rasulullah ﷺ that the people of Makkah Mukarramah are preparing for war against you. They're not going to allow you in. So Rasulullah ﷺ, he traveled along and he also told Rasulullah ﷺ that they have sent Khalid ibn Walid as Muqaddamatul Jaysh. Muqaddamatul Jaysh means the frontier, the front part of the army. As a defense against you, they know which pathway you're coming through. They have 700 people, Khalid ibn Walid is waiting there with 700 people, and as soon as they come there, they're going to fight against you. So Rasulullah ﷺ, he changed the pathway immediately. And they detoured and they came to another pathway towards Makkah Mukarramah. Now when they came close to Makkah Mukarramah, Rasulullah ﷺ and the Sahaba, they arrived in a place called Hudaybiyyah. Hudaybiyyah was actually a well there, but then the whole area was named Hudaybiyyah afterwards. And nearly 9 miles outside Makkah Mukarramah, so very close, at their destination, 9 miles away. When they arrived there, what happened was the camel of Rasulullah ﷺ sat down. So the people are saying, get up, without you we can't go, because Rasulullah, if his camel sits down, if the sheikh's, car has a flat tire, the other cars are going to go to the speech, what for? So they all stop saying, get up. And the camel's not moving from his place. So finally, Rasulullah ﷺ, he told the Sahaba that don't say foul things to my camel. Don't say, the qaswa is gone, the naqa is gone lazy and it's not getting, start saying foul things. If it's sat down, it's never done this before, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then Rasulullah ﷺ, he took an oath by the name of Allah and he said that whatever I want to do Umrah this year, and we've come with peace, and if whatever it takes for us to make a treaty with the people of Makkah Mukarramah, we're ready to do it, and I will accept. As long as it does not go against the sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now what happens is Rasulullah ﷺ, he takes the Sahaba, and now the camel stands up after Rasulullah ﷺ takes his oath, and they begin to travel. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted Rasulullah ﷺ to be in the state of mind where there should be a sulah, there should be a treaty, not a battle or a war. Right? So Rasulullah ﷺ, he traveled along with the Sahaba, and they arrived in the proper area of Hudaybiyyah, and they settled there. When they settled there, they went to the well, they tried to take water out, they took the water out, they drank from there some, and the well went dry. There was no more water there. So now the Sahaba, they told Rasulullah ﷺ that we have a whole army here, and there's no water with us, what do we do now? So Rasulullah ﷺ, from his bag, he took out an arrow, and he gave it to the Sahaba, he said, go and take this arrow, and put it inside the ground. So through the barakah of Rasulullah ﷺ, that arrow was taken, and it was put in the ground, and water began to gush from the ground, and the entire army drank from the 1,500 people. The entire group, 1,500 Sahaba, they drank from there. Now what happened was Rasulullah ﷺ, he sent one Sahabi forward. And he told the Sahabi that go in Makkah Mukarramah and tell the people of Makkah that we're not here for war, we just want to perform our Umrah in peace and go back. He comes in Makkah Mukarramah, the people, they run after him, they rush after him, they push him off his animal. and they slaughter his animal. And they're coming after him with daggers. That Sahabi, he runs and they're chasing him. Some people of Makkah Mukarramah, they come, they hold off. They were amongst the Quraysh themselves, but they saved him. The Sahabi, he returns back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, these people are really mad. And there's no way I can go there. And I didn't even get a chance to explain what I wanted to say. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent the warrior, Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar, you go and talk to them now. They're pushing us around, they're building us, why don't you go and show them? So Umar radiallahu anhu, he tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, if you tell me to go, I'm ready to go. But the thing is that if I go there, I can go and give the message, but I can't guarantee coming back alive. Because when I left them, I left some hard marks in their hearts. The things I said, some things I did before I left, I'm sure they didn't leave them too happy. So he said, I can go there, and I'm sure that no one from my family is even happy with what I did. Because Umar radiallahu anhu, he left with his start, with the rob. He didn't just leave, chupke se. He left with an announcement that he had to make. So he said that if I go back, I'm sure I can go back, but I'm not sure I can come back alive. So he told Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, instead of sending me, why don't you send Uthman radiallahu anhu? Uthman radiallahu anhu is a well-respected man. Rasulullah went to Uthman radiallahu anhu. Uthman radiallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah, whatever you tell me to do, I'm ready to go. He gets ready, he takes the message from Rasulullah, he arrives in Makkah Mukarramah. When he arrives there, he tells the people of Makkah that, look, now he was a respected person, no one was going to touch Uthman radiallahu anhu. Uthman radiallahu anhu comes and tells them that, look, Rasulullah and the Sahaba have come for Umrah, no war intended, let us come before Umrah and go. They told Uthman radiallahu anhu clearly that there is no way at all Rasulullah will perform Umrah this year, and that's final. If you want, you can perform Umrah and go back, but we won't allow Rasulullah to perform Umrah. Uthman radiallahu anhu said that, how can I perform Umrah without Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? This was their wafat. This was how trustworthy they were to Rasulullah, how truthful they were. That, you and I would have went and performed Umrah single-handed and come back, at least not let my trip go to waste. So selfish we would have been. But here the Sahabi said that if Rasulullah isn't performing Umrah, I can't go back with the face saying that I perform Umrah, Ya Rasulullah, don't worry about yourself. Now what happened is the people of Makkah Mukarramah, they didn't allow Uthman radiallahu anhu to return. They had him, kind of under house arrest, you can say. They had him, kept in the area. No one attacked him, but he was just kept in Makkah Mukarramah, not allowed to go back to Hudaybiyyah. The word reached Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Uthman radiallahu anhu was murdered. He was killed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became so upset, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gathered the Sahaba under a tree and he took bayat of every single one of them. Every single Sahabi took bayat of them that was present there. And he told the Sahaba that whatever happens, we will fight until we die, but we won't leave this place until we take the revenge from the people of Makkah Mukarramah on behalf of Uthman radiallahu anhu. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after he took bayat from everyone, he took his left hand and he said that this is the hand of Uthman, and I place Uthman's hand inside this bayat too. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he performed the bayat on behalf of Uthman radiallahu anhu. Uthman radiallahu anhu later on in his life said that all you people are proud that you took your bayat with your right hand. He goes, even though I wasn't present there, the left hand of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became my right hand and also joined the bayat at that time. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they advanced towards Makkah Mukarramah, they were extremely upset now. The people of Makkah Mukarramah, somehow the voice reached Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Uthman radiallahu anhu is not martyred, he's actually safe and sound. So the Sahaba then they calmed down. Now the people of Makkah Mukarramah they themselves were still very rageous. They were very mad that they weren't going to allow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam first of all come inside for sure. At the same time, they were planning to attack Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one of the people from Banu Khuza'ah, even though they hadn't accepted Islam, but they were close to the Muslims. So one person by the name of Budayl, he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, he said, "Oh Muhammad, these people, they're not going to let you in this year at all. What are your intentions?" Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Look, our intentions are only to create peace. We don't want to cause any arguments, no fights at all. Whatever happens, it happens from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." This Budayl brings this message. He comes to the people of Makkah. The people of Makkah Mukarramah, they again repeated the same thing, that whatever happens, we're not allowing him to come in this year. And they were very angry, as if they were ready for war. So there was one person by the name of Urwa. He said to the people of Makkah that, "I am your father, you're my son. Being that, I'm so elderly in this community and I'm a respected person, it's as if you guys are my children. Why don't you allow me to go and speak with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam?" So this is the part you should listen to now. There's Urwa, he comes in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Oh Muhammad, let me tell you something. Many people have come, many people have made many claims. They have their little group with them, they cause some show, make some noise, and then what happens is that when they see that a big power is coming against them, when they realize that because they made some noise, there's obviously going to be a backfall of the noise they made. And when they see the gravity of their mistake coming against them, then they run off and go hide in their place, and then what's going to happen is you're going to be left here alone." What he was saying in more simpler words is that you're making some noise right now and you have some Sahaba with you, you're claiming Islam and this and that and all this stuff. He goes, when we come against you with all of our power, what's going to happen is that your Sahaba that are with you, they're actually all going to run. They're going to run for their lives and they're not going to be here with you. So he was basically playing the fear game with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's trying to, put fear in the heart of Rasul. But what did he know? That heart was actually a fort within itself. That heart was a house that only had the love of Allah in it. There was nothing, no second thing, love of the world, love for life, love for cars, houses. These things didn't mean anything to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a king, who apparently looked as a slave. He was a hidden king. The Sahaba, when they would see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were shocked. The convoys, when they would come to Medina, they were shocked. That look at this person. We hear Muhammad. When we come and look at him, he's the most simplest person. He doesn't even eat twice a day completely most of the times. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, now when this person Urwa, when he says this, that your Sahaba, they're actually going to leave you. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting and listening carefully, and the Sahaba were with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And amongst the Sahaba, right next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as always was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. When he hears a statement that Urwa is saying to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that your friends are going to leave you and they're going to leave you hanging here alone and you're going to have to face the punishment yourself and we're going to execute you, we're going to do this and that and all the other. Umar radiallahu anh jumps in front of him and he says to him, Umsus Badr Allah, go get out of here. And Umsus Badr Allah is actually a very foul sentence. Okay, very foul sentence. We have young kids in the gathering, though I would have clearly translated it. Right? He says, Umsus Badr Allah, go and get out of here. And he's a kulli gali, go get out of here. And he swears at him. And that person, when he hears this, he's shocked. Who swore at me like this? Later on, he finds out it was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, what's amazing is that he wasn't a big person. He wasn't like a giant, like Umar radiallahu anh. They say regarding Umar radiallahu anh that his forearms were the size of a normal man's thighs. So he wasn't like a giant or something. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh was dubla patla, thanda insan, a very thin person. He was so thin that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam excused him for him to have his trousers under his ankles because his waist was so slim that his pants would always just slip, his shalwar was always just slip down because he was such a slim person. But yet when it came time to speak, size doesn't matter. Do you understand? Size doesn't matter. This person had a dil, he had a jigar. You know what I'm saying? He had a heart. I was in Bombay, right? Bombay, for those of you who don't know, they have a lot of gangs there. It's more of a gangland, right? A lot of fights and people groups and this and that, always fighting over the most pettiest and smallest things, right? So I remember once when I was there was a fight that was about to take place. So I said to one of the guys there, look, I can't take part of this fight. I'm a little kid, man. I'm going to get hurt. So then that guy that was next to me, the people in Bombay, they have a very, very bold way of speaking and very harsh. They're just in their tone and their words, they're very harsh. So one guy there, he says to me, I want to say in the Urdu because I'll have to use the tone and I may sound very foul. So he says in English translation, he goes, when it comes to a fight, it's not about your size, it's about your heart. So the Sahaba, this is how Abu Bakr Siddiq, it wasn't about the size, it was about his heart, and his heart was such that he was ready to give his life and speak out if it came down to be, but no one could speak against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now what happens is that after he says this, that guy, he calms down his words. He steps out a little with his words, okay? Urwa now calms down with his words. He's still speaking with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, oh Muhammad, and he starts the conversation. Now while he's speaking with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he has a bad habit of touching the beard of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He keeps touching the beard of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there was another Sahabi that was there, Mughira bin Shu'bah, who happened to be the nephew of Urwa. He was actually the nephew. His father's brother was Urwa. Okay? So he was behind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Mughira bin Shu'bah actually had a helmet on. And due to his helmet, you could actually recognize who he was. And Mughira bin Shu'bah, just to draw a picture in front of you, was a very, a hard man. Do you understand? He was a street person. Do you understand? He was very tough, and at the same time, he was a very street man. Do you understand? Like, he was street smart. There are narrations regarding Mughira bin Shu'bah. Mughira bin Shu'bah radiallahu anh, one time he was traveling and he had a big arrow in a spear. And he didn't want to carry it. He has we have to travel for so many miles and I have to carry the spear with me. I'm going to get tired. So there was all this Sahaba there. So he dropped the spear. His spear, he dropped it on the ground. So the people behind, they picked it up. Whose spear is this? Whose spear is this? He didn't say anything. Until they reached their destination. He goes, that's my spear there. He took it. So Ali radiallahu anh, he realized, he goes, I'm going to complain to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm going to file a complaint against you. What kind of person, what are you doing? So Mughira bin Shu'bah radiallahu anh, that was just a little side story, I remember. He was a very firm person. At the same time, he was street smart too. So when it came to speak, he spoke. So he was standing behind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his uncle keeps touching the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's beard. So some people when they talk, they have a habit of touching your shoulder. And it's very disrespectful that you're touching your shoulder while they're talking. Listen to me, like that. Oi, listen to me. So he's touching the beard of Rasulullah. So Mughira bin Shu'bah radiallahu anhu says, look, he stops the guy. He goes, he's about to touch, and Mughira bin Shu'bah goes, stop. Stop right there. He goes, you're a kafir, you're a mushrik, you're najis, you're impure. Don't touch the pure beard of Rasulullah again. So that person, he stops. He goes, who is this? Who are you? So then he says, so then he was informed that this is Mughira bin Shu'bah. So he goes, Mughira, it's you. He goes, you scumbag. This is more or less this is what he said to him. He goes, you're a scum. He goes, how could you speak out against me? He goes, weren't you the one that committed a murder, and because of you I had to pay the blood money? What actually happened was Mughira bin Shu'bah, he traveled with some of his companions before Islam. He traveled with some of his companions, and they arrived in a foreign land. Now the king of the place, he rewarded all three of them for something, whatever 3-4 of them, he gave them a gift. Now Mughira bin Shu'bah, he was given the least compared to the other partners. They were in Jahiliyyah before Islam. It's not as if it counted anyway. So when they were coming back, what happened is Mughira bin Shu'bah, he felt hurt. That why were they given more than me? And those people at the smallest, hurt in their heart, smallest feeling in their heart, they were ready to kill each other. So he said that what happened was that they all sat down, they were traveling, they were sitting at nighttime. He gave them all a good dosage of wine. They all got drunk and they fell over to the side. He took his sword, he killed all of them there. And he took his stuff and then he came to Medina Munawwara and then he accepted Islam. Rasulullah, he accepted him in, and Rasulullah said, we'll accept you, but this money that you brought, we're not going to accept it. This is impure, go and get rid of it. So now what happened was Urwa, he actually played the bud money on behalf of Mughira bin Shu'bah radiallahu anhu. He played the blood money. He said, get rid of the case, let's not make a big case out of it. He goes, I'll pay the blood money and let's finish this case off. So that's what he was referring to. Now what happened was, the point being, but Mughira bin Shu'bah, he stood up on behalf of Rasulullah. So now Urwa's eyes are opening up. First he sees that, one Sahabi, he said he's ready to, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu is ready to fight. Here Mughira bin Shu'bah radiallahu anhu is ready to fight, right? And now what happens is that he's just speaking with Rasulullah and he realizes that as the conversation carries on, and as he's observing the people around Rasulullah, he realizes that he's never seen a community that loves their master as much as Rasulullah was loved by the Sahaba. To another level. He says, these are his words, okay? That if Rasulullah would spit, what would the Sahaba do? They would catch the spit of Rasulullah in their hand and they would rub it over their body. What would they do? They would catch the spit of Rasulullah in their hand and they would rub it over their body. This is how much they honored just the saliva of Rasulullah. If Rasulullah was performing wudu, Urwa, he said, I'm not a Muslim, I'm looking at this. If Rasulullah was performing wudu, the water that would come off the limbs of Rasulullah, the Sahaba would gather it and they would put it over their body. Zurqani, if you want a reference. Okay. He then says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he would, speak, the Sahaba Ridwanullahi ta'ala majma'een would go totally silent and no one would make a word. Totally silent. If a hair of Rasulullah would fall off, as soon as it would fall on the ground, the Sahaba would pick it up and they would take it into their custody. They put it in safeguarding. The Sahaba were so deeply in love with it. He said that now that it came to an end, the conversation came to an end. He went back to Makkah Mukarramah and he told the people of Makkah that, look, this person is no king. He's something that's above kings. Because kings gain their rob, they gain their rob and they put fear in the hearts of other people through their power. If they didn't have the power, do you think someone would fear that king? No, they wouldn't fear that king. It's all because that person has power, because he has the ability to kill you if you don't listen to him. That's why people listen to them. But these people, they were just so deeply in love with Rasulullah that anyone that dared to disobey Rasulullah or even try to show an affection of disrespect to Rasulullah, the Sahaba were ready to fight against that person. And not only was this in the Sahaba, this love, this special love, that if anyone said anything against Rasulullah, that always the Sahaba were ready to always stand up. This actually came into the wirasat, into the Muslims in general. You see a Muslim, a general person, someone swears that, my father, your father, or our families or something, we listen, okay, chalo, koi baat nahi. He says something against Rasulullah, then what happens? No. You can't go that far. You need to stop right there. Don't do that again. You made a mistake once, next time you do that, you're going to get a punch in your face. This is it may not be words all the time, but this is a person's reaction. There's one story that's coming to my mind. Sunade. It's a very good story, but it's a little lengthy, but it's a good story. Inshallah, you'll remember it. Salahuddin Ayyubi. The story actually relates to Salahuddin Ayyubi. For those of you who know him, he was one of the greatest warriors that came. They say that Salahuddin Ayyubi, he was a part of the group of Sahaba. He was actually a part of the group of the Sahaba. The people, they say when they observe Salahuddin Ayyubi. It was as if you were looking at a Sahabi, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to show a jalak and a practical example of the Sahaba to the years that were going to come ahead. So Salahuddin Ayyubi was sent at a time where corruption was at its peak. Just to show the people that this is how the Sahaba actually were. This is how these people who truly followed Islam actually were. Salahuddin Ayyubi was a very, very unique person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent this person to once again revive Deen and take it out of the impurity that was in at the time. When Salahuddin Ayyubi was born, I don't want to go through his whole biography, but khair, I'll just pointing towards the incident that I wanted to mention. Salahuddin Ayyubi, at his time, there was so much corruption in the Muslims. The reason being is that the Crusaders had come from Europe. The Crusaders were like the religious army on behalf of the Christians, the Crusaders. They came from Europe and they were attacking the Muslim countries. And they were attacking with such force. And these people, they were giants. The Crusaders, they were giants and they had really big horses. And they were known for their tactics in battle and their force on the ground. Anyone that came in front of them, they just crushed it. These people were so big. So what happened was that these people, the Crusaders, they fought against the Muslims for so long that they had captured some of the territories of the Muslims. Until the point they captured Jerusalem, Bayt al-Maqdis. They captured Bayt al-Maqdis. And so many Muslims were killed that there were actually rivers of blood of the Muslims flowing in Bayt al-Maqdis. That's how many Muslims had been killed. Where they told all the Muslims that, gather inside the masjid and we'll give you peace. And all the Muslims, they gathered in the masjid and they opened the doors up. And at the doors they had two slaughtermen. They were just, chopping heads off the Muslims one by one. And they killed many thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of Muslims in a day. So Salahuddin Ayyubi, when he came, he thought to himself that, how do I get rid of this corruption? How do I go against it? How do we stop this? He realized that the corruption actually had spread within the Muslims. And what the Muslims were doing is that the leaders and the princes and the kings of all the different provinces and states and countries, they were actually building contracts with the Crusaders against other Muslims. So one king says to the Crusaders, I'll give you this much and I'll do this for you and you help me fight against this Muslim country. And these people said, let's join hands with the Crusaders and we help fight against this Muslim country. So the Muslims were actually cheating each other out. So what happened is Salahuddin Ayyubi, he became upset with this because we have to stop this. Now, while the Muslims were joining these relationships with the Crusaders, one of the deals that were made with the Crusaders was that if you help us fight against this Muslim country, so-and-so Muslim country, we will release one of your prisoners that has been in our jails for years. So the Crusaders, they accepted right away. They were only going to release how many prisoners? One prisoner. And what was the demand on the other half? That you have to help us fight against this country. So Salahuddin Ayyubi thought to himself that what is in this one person that they released? So he did a checkup on that person. And he realized that this person was actually a general. And he had been locked away by the Muslims for years. So now this person, as soon as he was released, he went to the Crusaders, he got an army together, and he announced that he was going now to destroy Makkah, Mukarramah, and Medina Munawwara. And he took his army and began to march towards Haramain. And while he was marching towards Haramain, his intention was to go to Makkah and destroy the Kaaba. Then go to Medina Munawwara and take out the grave of Rasulullah after destroying the Muslims there, taking it to France and charging people to come to visit it. He wanted to make a business out of it. So Salahuddin Ayyubi, when he found out, he was like, this person needs to be put quiet now. And Salahuddin Ayyubi, he got an army ready and he said, go. He got a general, he said, you're the general, go and take care of that person. So this person, the general, when he was going, he said, before I go, Salahuddin Ayyubi, I want to go visit my mother. He goes to his mother, he tells his mother that, mother, I'm going. Every time he had a habit that before he went to any battle, before Salahuddin Ayyubi sent him anywhere, he would always go to his mother and take his dua from his mother. Oh, my mother, I'm going, make dua, I'm going for another battle, I'm going for another expedition, for another battle, make dua for me. So the mother would always ask him, where are you going? So she says to his mother this time that I'm going to defend Haramain. I'm going to, subhanAllah, what a statement to say, man. He's saying to his mother, I'm going to defend Haramain, the two sacred lands. So his mother cries and cries and cries and she smiles out of joy. So he says to his mother, why are you smiling? So she says to him that, before you were born, after he was born, when he was really young. She says that once I saw a dream. And in the dream I saw that there was a light. And, you were close, there was a light and you were very close to that light. And you were defending Haramain Sharifain. So later on, when you grew up, you joined the army, then you became a general, and I heard that you were going here, there. I was waiting for you to tell me one day that I'm going to defend Haram. And for my dream to come true. And today you're telling me, oh my son, go and defend Haram. And this general, he took his army and he came and he defended Haram. And they beat those people to bits. And that person, the whole army was destroyed. But that person, that general, he turned around and he ran for his life. And he came back to the Crusaders again and he built another army. And this time when he built an army, what he started doing, he started traveling through to the lands of Arabia. And he'd fight against the Muslims, just small little expeditions here and there. And every Muslim he would kill, he would hold the person, he'd snap his head back, he'd take his sword, and he'd say, you believe in Allah and His Rasul, right? Let's see if Muhammad saves you now. And he'd blow that person's head off. Then he'd go to the next person, he'd hold his head, he'd snap his head back, he'd say that you believe in Muhammad, right? Let's see if he can save you now. And he'd blow his head off. And he did this one by one to all the Muslims he killed. So Salahuddin Ayyubi, when he heard this, the blood in his body began to boil. He's like, whatever happens, we have to take this person out. And Salahuddin Ayyubi, he prepared a whole army to come against him. I'm explaining how the Sahaba, when they were so firm against defending, Rasulullah, there were people that came after that had the very same blood flowing in their veins too. So Salahuddin Ayyubi took a whole army, so let's go fight against these people. Now they advanced, and now this person realized that Salahuddin Ayyubi was coming against them, so he joined their greater army, where there were thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of the Crusaders. And what happened was the armies, they came close by. Salahuddin Ayyubi, when he was coming against him, instead of going directly where the Crusaders were, he actually positioned himself right by the sea. So behind him was the sea, and in front of him, he was expecting the opposition to come. Now the Crusaders, they laughed and laughed and laughed at, what an idiot. We've heard so much of Salahuddin Ayyubi that he's this, that, and everyone's scared of him, and he's the big thing right now. And he's such a fool. Which person would position his army by the sea? Because we're going to come. These Crusaders were huge. They had huge horses. All they needed to do was do one big rush with their shields, and what would happen? Where would the Muslims be? In the sea. In the sea, they'd be gone. So they didn't even have to worry about taking the swords out. They're like, we're actually going to use they had these really big shields, like a man-sized shield. And we're just going to run with these, with their big horses and power, 4 or 5 lines of us, and we're just going to push these guys into the sea. Now they didn't realize that Salahuddin Ayyubi, he didn't have the size that the Crusaders had, but he had a brain that they could never afford to have. So now the Crusaders, they began to advance for Salahuddin Ayyubi. Now what Salahuddin Ayyubi did, the trip between, where the Crusaders were and to where the Muslims were, was roughly an 8-hour trip. Now the time of the year was summer. And they were in the Middle Eastern area, extremely hot. Salahuddin Ayyubi took that into consideration. Okay? Now when they left their place, when they were halfway through the area, they were to travel through a little desert, and then in order to reach where the Muslims were, it was like a long pathway, and there were small wells everywhere for water. Salahuddin Ayyubi, on the way to positioning himself, he poisoned all the wells. What did he do? He poisoned all the wells. So these people, now they're thinking that, okay, we have water here, 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 but what in reality has happened? All the wells have been poisoned. On the mountain peaks, he placed archers everywhere. Now these people, they're traveling, and the Muslims started showering them. When they came right in the middle, from the 4 mountains area, they started showering them with arrows. And they slowed them down. The purpose wasn't to defeat them, it was just to slow them down. They're in the summer right now, okay? And it's really hot. They don't have water to drink, to slow them down. But make the 8-hour trip, their mission was to make the 8-hour trip into a 24-hour trip. Okay? So now what happens is night falls, these people don't have any water, they've been traveling all day, they're totally exhausted, they're tired, they're trying to defend themselves. And now what happens is, night comes, they're all thirsty, they're all getting really weak now. What's happening? They're all getting really weak. Human is human being, insan is insan, right? So now what happens is that the next morning, Salahuddin Ayyubi, he sends some men ahead, and what they actually do is, they smoke the Crusaders. They set up a huge fire, and the wind is blowing against the Crusaders, and all the smoke comes against them, and what are they going to inhale now? Carbon monoxide, smoke. These people are dehydrated. Salahuddin Ayyubi takes his man and goes, Abun Koda. Go play cricket with these guys now. Go swat these flies. And these guys come there one by one, and they're knocking these guys' heads off one by one. And the whole army is down. Only thing that remains is one tent, and there's some soldiers around there. Salahuddin Ayyubi tells his men, now the men come and tell Salahuddin Ayyubi, we were victorious. Salahuddin Ayyubi said, there's still one tent there. There's still some people there. Go and destroy them, then we'll find out. They're all killed, and 2 people are brought to Salahuddin Ayyubi. Salahuddin Ayyubi sitting inside his tent, and he was, mashallah, very, mashallah person. And he has his sword there, and, his sword over his shoulder, and these 2 people are brought in front of him. And they're both generals. And one of the 2 generals happens to be the one who made the very big claim that where is Muhammad to save you? So these 2 people are brought in from Salahuddin Ayyubi, and their tongues were out, and they were just thirsty, and they were like dehydrated. They just wanted water, whatever happened. So Salahuddin Ayyubi, he gave 1 cup of water to one of the generals. In the Arabs, if you gave 1 cup of water, what was that? That was a sense that, okay, I'm going to let you live. I may send you to the jails, I may do something, but I won't kill you. You know what I'm saying? It's a sense of, here's your life, take your life with you. So Salahuddin gave that person a cup of water. That person took the cup of water, and he drank from there. Now he thought he was smart. He thought, if I'm gonna live, this guy's definitely gonna get killed because he said some really bad things. Salahuddin was gonna make kachumar out of this guy. So he said, let me give him some water too, so he can live too. So he gave that guy water. That guy drank water too, and he was happy that yes, I'm gonna live too now. Salahuddin looked at him and said, I didn't give you the water. I gave him the water. He can save your life if he wants to, but I'm not gonna spare you. He then said to this person that Islam? He said no. He said fidya? He said no. He lifted his head up and he put this guy to the ground. Shaheed. He wished he was shaheed. Kill this person. Now, the point being that the Sahaba, they were also so firm. Now, what happened was at the time of Hudaybiyyah, you can see that so clearly. The way the Sahaba, they were so, deeply in love with Rasulullah, that no one can touch Rasulullah, no one can say anything against Rasulullah, and their words and actions were just proof. Quickly to finish off the incident now. Now what happened was that the Quraysh, they sent the person finally, Suhail. Suhail was the one who actually came to make the treaty with the Muslims. And the Sahaba, they sat down with Rasulullah. And now, this is where the actual test starts. Remember I mentioned at the beginning that there was a big test in this year? This is where it all starts. So now the treaty is made, and the treaty that they come to a conclusion on is that the Muslims and the people of Makkah will not fight for 10 years. What's the first thing? They won't fight for 10 years. If any person from Makkah Mukarramah arrives in Medina Munawwara without permission from his master or keeper, the people of Medina Munawwara, what will they do? They will return that person back. If any person comes from Medina to Makkah, they will not return that person back. During this 10-year period, no person will raise a sword against another person. Okay? And the fifth and last thing was that this year we won't grant you permission for Umrah. Next year you come and you can only do Umrah for how many days? 3 days. Come in Makkah for 3 days, do your thing, and you're gone. We won't give you more than 3 days to come. Now, the Sahaba, they were thinking that there's no justice in this. Everything is just on their side. There's nothing on our side at all. But Rasulullah, he agreed to sign, and he called Ali radiallahu anh. And Ali, the reason why Rasulullah didn't sign himself or write the contract himself, because he was unlettered. He didn't know how to read or write. So now what happened is Ali radiallahu anh came, and he began to write down. And he started off the contract by saying, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now the people of Makkah Mukarramah, whenever they wrote a contract, they always started with Bismika Allahumma. They usually didn't start Bismillah ar-Rahman. So they said, look, don't change the contract. We always use Bismika Allahumma, we're going to use Bismika Allahumma. Rasulullah said that there's nothing wrong though. Allah is Rahman, Allah is Rahim. What's wrong with that? He said, no, we want to use Bismika Allahumma. Rasulullah told Ali radiallahu anh, okay, change it. So the first change was made, it was changed to Bismika Allahumma. The second change that was made, that هَذَا مَا قَضَى عَلَيْهِ Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That Ali radiallahu anh, that this is that contract what Rasulullah has agreed upon. So now Suhail said to Rasulullah that, oh Muhammad, if I knew you were Rasulullah, then we wouldn't have this problem. You're not Rasulullah, I don't believe in you to be Rasulullah, na'udhu billahi min dhalik. So cut this off from the contract. Rasulullah said that, Wallahi, I am the messenger of Allah. I can take an oath by the name of Allah that I am his messenger. But just to make it easy for you, Ali cut it out. Ali radiallahu anhu, imagine how hard this was for him. The thing he lived for, the thing he believed in, the thing, every night he went to sleep with, that love that that fueled his body. He's now being told that, rub that off Rasulullah from the contract. So he says to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, I can't do that, I'm sorry. Rasulullah says to Ali radiallahu anhu, that show me where it is to say, Rasulullah. Ali radiallahu anhu points it with his finger, Rasulullah takes the pen and cuts it out. And says there, write Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Muhammad the son of Allah. Ali radiallahu anhu, he takes the pen and he writes out Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, the son of the servant of Allah, because Rasulullah's father's name was Abdullah. The contract was completed. Before this contract has been signed, the person who came to make the treaty, his name was, what was his name? I just said his name. Suhail. Suhail had a son by the name of Abu Jundal. Abu Jundal had accepted Islam. He quickly came on the Muslim side, before the treaty was signed. Because if he came after the treaty was signed, what would happen? They would have to send him back. So Suhail said that I want my son. You have to send him back. Abu Jundal said, I'm not going. The treaty hasn't been signed yet, I'm on this side. Rasulullah said, we're not sending him. The kuffar, they put such pressure on Rasulullah that finally Rasulullah said to Abu Jundal, like, go back. Abu Jundal, he came on this, he was sent right to the kuffar, and he was crying, he was in tears. He said, Ya Rasulullah, why am I going back? Rasulullah said, Isbir, be patient, go. And he came back. Umar radiallahu anhu, when he heard of this, and the Sahaba, they were very upset. He came to Rasulullah, he said, Ya Rasulullah, and Umar radiallahu anhu, he was a very furious person. He said to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, I have a few questions. Was the contract signed? Rasulullah said, no. He said, why did you send him back then? Rasulullah said that, it was the right thing to do at the time because there was so much pressure. This contract is necessary, it's victory for us. He says, Ya Rasulullah, aren't we on the right path? Aren't you the messenger? Isn't Allah one? Isn't this deen right? If we're right, then why are we not going into this? Why don't we just go fight against these people and give our lives and fight against these people just as we fought against them before? We're not scared of anyone. So Rasulullah said, look, whatever decision I have made, Allah has inspired me with this, and this is the final answer. Now Umar radiallahu anhu, he leaves the gathering, he comes to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. And he tells Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, have you heard what happened? Abu Jundal was sent back. We signed a contract which was just not even in our favor. And he said, we're the true deen, and he repeats the same conversation again. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, subhanAllah, he gives the very same answer Rasulullah sallallahu gave. He said, he is the messenger of Allah, whatever Allah inspired him to do, he did the right thing. Khata. Sami'na wa ata'na. Whatever we hear and we obey him. We don't fight against Rasulullah. We don't argue against. It's not about fighting. We don't even dispute. Whatever Rasulullah said, alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. Rasulullah sallallahu he tells the Sahaba now. Now the Sahaba are shocked. And they had no reason not to be shocked. Because they were so firm in what they believed, and now they're being told that, the whole treaty is signed, it's against the Muslims. Rasulullah sallallahu he tells the Sahaba, he walks in the Sahaba, and all the Sahaba are there, they're all upset, they're past with, with their sad faces on, some are in anger, some are really sad, some are cheering away at what just happened. Rasulullah sallallahu tells the Sahaba, everyone, shave your heads, slaughter your animals, we're going back to Medina. The Sahaba are sitting there, no one makes a move. Rasulullah the second time says, everyone, shave your heads, cut your hair, slaughter your animals, we're going back to Medina. No Sahabi makes a move. The third time Rasulullah says, everyone, come on, let's go. Cut your hair and slaughter your animals, let's go. The Sahaba were in such shock that no one made a move again. Rasulullah he enters into the room where his wife Salma radiallahu anha was. She came along with Rasulullah. And he tells Salma radiallahu anha that, we've signed the contract and no one's making a move. I told them 3 times, why aren't they listening? So Salma radiallahu anha, she said to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, these people are in such an emotional state right now. They're human beings, they're insan. Insan is insan, right? They're in such an emotional state that right now, they don't even know what to do. Even though what you're telling them is right. For example, when Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha at the time of remember I mentioned the whole story in detail, how she was accused, and finally, when Allah revealed 10 ayats in her purity, what did her father say to her? That go and, congratulate Rasulullah. What did she say? She said, I'm not going to congratulate Rasulullah today. I'm going to thank Allah because Allah was the one who cleaned me from the state. And the Muhaddithin say, it wasn't that she was against Rasulullah, but she was just in such a state at that time that she's a human being, and the halat of the human being sometimes can't be explained in words. Right? So they're here, Salma radiallahu anha, she says to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, the Sahaba are in such shock right now that the only way they're going to move is if you go and show them what they have to do. Rasulullah came outside and he had his head cut off. He had his hair cut off, he had his head shaved. And then he slaughtered his animal, and the Sahaba realized what they had to do. They all came, they slaughtered the animals, they cut their heads, and they returned back to Medina along with Rasulullah. Now the last portion of this incident, and then we'll finish for today, is that what happened was that there was a person who left Makkah Mukarramah, he arrived in Medina Munawwara, a Sahabi. The people of Makkah Mukarramah sent 2 people to go and arrest him. They came to arrest him. He said to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, if I go back with them, they're going to torture me until I give up on my deen. I can't go back with them. Rasulullah said that we've made a treaty, you have to go. So the 2 people, they arrested him, and they were taking him back. When they were taking him back, they arrived in Dhul Hulayfa, the same area where Rasulullah had his ihram, that area that they arrived there. And they were tired, those two people who came to arrest him. And they were sitting down having their dates, eating. And this Sahabi, he was there, he was tied up and he was trapped there. So he says to one of the 2 soldiers that were there, that, wow, you have such an amazing sword. It's so shiny, it's so sharp. So then that person, he's like, yeah, my sword is my sword. I've tested this sword many times and it's never failed me. So that Sahabi, he says, show me the sword. It's such an amazing one. So he goes, here, check it out. So the Sahabi gets the sword, he cuts his hands free, and he puts that guy to the ground. He kills him. He goes, taste your sword. It's never failed you. Let me see if it fails you now. And he puts that guy to the ground. The other guy runs. And the Sahabi is chasing him, and he's gone back. And that person who runs, the second companion, he comes to Rasulullah. He said, Ya Rasulullah, that person came after us, he killed us, and this is that. So Rasulullah, he said that Sahabi, he's lit a fire now. Something's going to happen. So now, the Sahabi, he comes and he sits by the river area, the seaside area, and he stays there. Now the Sahaba, they hear that there's one Sahabi who ran, and he's there, and he has a sword with him. Let's go and join him. So the people from Makkah Mukarramah slowly, they sneak out, and they join the Sahabi there. And until there's a group of how many of them? 70 of them. How many of them gathered there together? 70 of them. Now they're there and they're sitting in such a unique position that any caravan that travels past them from the people of Makkah, they attack that caravan and they take all their goods. Not as bandits, but as revenge. Because what have you guys done to the Muslims? You guys took everything of ours, but it's our turn now. Because when the Muslims left Makkah Mukarramah, when they migrated to Medina, did they have U-Hauls that they took everything with them? They had a camel and they were on the run, so whatever little they can take, they took and they came. And whatever was left behind, these people they took. So they were like, that's our stuff there that you guys have, and they took it back. So now what happened is the people of Makkah Mukarramah, they became so tung and parishan that these people, they won't even allow any of our caravans to come through. So they asked Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, why don't you call them to Medina? Move them from there and tell them to come to Medina. Rasulullah, he sent a letter to the Sahaba that come to Medina. Now Abu Jundal, you remember Abu Jundal? Abu Jundal? Who was he the son of? Suhail. He also was a part of the 70. He ran from there and he joined the 72. So now what happened was that this Sahabi, who actually started this whole thing off, he was the Amir of the 70. When the letter came that Rasulullah was calling him, he was on his deathbed. And he was reading the letter that Rasulullah was calling him, and he was smiling and he was happy that, Alhamdulillah, Rasulullah was calling me. But he was so weak at that time and he passed away. And in one narration comes that when he passed away, the letter was on his chest. And the other narration comes that when he passed away, the letter was in his hand and he passed away like this. Abu Jundal radiallahu anh, he washed his body along with the Sahaba. They put kafir on him. They buried him there and they made a small little masjid there in his remembrance. They then returned to Medina Munawwarah. And then what happened is now the Sahaba, they came there. And the people of Makkah Mukarramah, they asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where they were asking for the men that came to Medina Munawwarah, they also demanded the women should be sent back too. If any women came from Makkah to Medina, they said, send us the women too. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that we didn't sign in the contract anything about women. It only said men there. That if any man comes from Makkah to Medina, we're going to send the man back. Nothing about women there. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused to do so. And that was the whole great incident of Hudaybiyyah. What happened next, and there were a few more incidents that took place in this year. Now what happened is one thing, okay. On the way back from Medina Munawwarah, on the way back from Makkah Mukarramah to Medina Munawwarah, Allah revealed a whole surah. Which surah was it? Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina. Surah Fatah was revealed. In which the first verse, what does Allah say? That we have given you a clear victory. So the Sahaba were saying, Ya Rasulullah, where's the clear victory? Rasulullah said that this treaty was a clear victory. Now the Muhaddithin explain how is a clear victory, great detail. But however, one thing how it was a clear victory is from next lesson, inshallah, we'll learn. The next lesson when we go there, inshallah, we'll learn how this was a clear victory. How the incident of Hudaybiyyah actually proved to be a clear victory for the Muslims, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through this incident, where the Muslims, they put their nafs down, where they put their desires down, their ego down, and they lowered themselves in front of the world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He raised these people so high that they went passing on imagination then. This is how they went so far. Right? That person has to wash himself out to become something. So they washed themselves out for the sake of Allah because it was the order of Allah. Allah revealed, Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina. What then happened, there were a few incidents that took place in this year and in the following year, inshallah, we'll discuss in the next session, inshallah. May Allah grant us the ability to follow the sunnah of the Sahaba and grant us the ability to learn lessons from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu